Hello everyone, it's Aderonke again. I hope your day is going well. Today I'd like to continue with my series on Yoruba lessons for beginners, things that every beginner should know and note as they proceed with their learning. In the very first video, I did a general introduction to the language, so to the vocal aspects of the language and the non-vocal aspects, because not every part of the language is spoken or written, so I touched on that. And in the second video I did tone marks, and I gave a lot of opportunities for practice, and I did it in such a way that, anybody who doesn't know anything about the reason why tone marks exist in the first place, how useful they are to spirituality and to ancestral communication with the talking drum and all that I mentioned, or even why it's important to put tone marks on words, I made the video in such a way that people who don't have any idea will be able to not only learn the tone marks but begin to use them whenever they have the opportunity. So if you haven't seen the video and you would really like to learn tone marks, I suppose I'm recommending it for your use. In this one I will be discussing the alphabet and giving tips, pronunciation tips, so that not only will you be able to say them correctly, you remember them. If you look at them, because they were inspired by Latin letters, there'll be for a beginner, there'll be the temptation to pronounce them like English letters. Well, there are no English letters like Latin letters that the English use, but it's not quite the same pronunciation-wise, and there are differences. There are some letters that are in the Yoruba alphabet that are not in the Latin alphabets, So these are the things that I'll be discussing in this one. Before I go further into the lesson, let me mention that it's very likely that this video would have two parts. The first will be longer than the second. The first is this one, so I suppose that would be consoling to people with short attention spans. The second would be like a brief A is for this, B is for this, just giving examples of words that start with each letter. That would be the second part of this video. In this one, my focus is more, I suppose, if you're not already aware, introducing the current writing system to you. Introducing the current writing system to you as it stands right now in mainly Nigeria, at least. Because I know that there's also a sensitive aspect to this that I will touch on briefly, but how it stands right now if you want to write the Yoruba language correctly. So I suppose this one will be a little bit much more detailed than the part 2 of the video, but watch out for the part 2. So alphabeti. If you call alphabet any of these three words, you're correct. Alphabet is not these words are not Yoruba words. They're just alphabets modified, and the pronunciation may sound like any of these, mainly depending on the dialect of the Yoruba person that is saying it. Some people would say alphabet and it would sound like Alifabeti, 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 alifabeti Yoruba, alifabeti Yoruba, Yoruba alphabet. Some would say alifabeti Yoruba, alifabeti Yoruba, alifabeti Yoruba, and some people would say alifabeti, alifabeti Yoruba, alifabeti Yoruba. That'll be more maybe towards the Egun side, maybe towards the Benin side. Alifabeti Yoruba, alifabeti Yoruba, alifabeti Yoruba. It may sound like any of these. I typically go with this, with the first two. It doesn't really matter. The main idea is that you would be transferring, or I suppose Yorubanizing the word alphabet. Same as letter, if you choose to call letters in Yoruba, the Yorubanized version of the word letter is leta. I told you in the introductory video that although we were writers pre-colonization, we're more people who used symbols than people who used the one that we have now, that was largely inspired by the Latin alphabet. So we were not illiterate. As a matter of fact, I've been thinking about making a video on that, because in Nigeria, if a person cannot speak English or write English, they say they are illiterate. But if they can speak Yoruba, if they can read it, if they can write it, they are not an illiterate person just because it's not English that they are literate in. So, letter Yoruba works. Kiko would be writing. So if you would prefer not to use either alifabeti or letter, and you just want to say, write like a sentence, bí a ṣe ń kọ èdè Yorùbá, bí a ṣe ń kọ èdè Yorùbá. Ko is to write, how we write the Yoruba language. That also works if you want to completely avoid any of these borrowed words, but it really doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. Bí a ṣe ń kọ èdè Yorùbá, how we write the Yoruba language. Ko is to write. We've always had the word write in our vocabulary, so I don't know if there's any more proof than that we are writers, that we are scribblers. Even when we mold something, we draw out something, we write something, we depict something, typically a symbol of something, on those molds, on those carvings, on those, whatever. It's even instinctive to some degree. Put a man on a remote island where the floor is sandy, like a place in Nigeria, plant a tree and let there be sticks. It's very instinctive that man will pick up the stick at some point and begin to perhaps draw a line or make a demarcation, or it will at some point figure out that if he holds the stick and it touches the floor with it, it would make a pattern. So we've always been writers, scribblers. We may not have used the alphabet as I'm about to introduce, but we've always had writing in us. Samuel Jayikravan helped with the establishment of the letters that we currently use. He has had really significant impacts on the culture very much, especially with education and the language having the current system that it has. There's a lot that can be said about Jayikravan. His life was captured when he was 12, kidnapped by Fulani slave traders to be sold to slavery. I suppose it was on a Portuguese slave ship, And that was around the time that more and more people were repenting from their evil ways in Britain, and they were joining the anti-slavery teams that existed, abolitionists, so I don't know if that's the right term. So they rescued him from the ship that he was on, and as a couple of others, I suppose, and they resettled them in Sierra Leone. And that is why there are a lot of Sierra Leoneans that are Yoruba people, that are of Yoruba descent. So because since then, some people's descendants have never really, Sierra Leone is what they've known, but if they trace their ancestry even further down the line, then it traces back to somewhere in Ogun State or somewhere in present day Lagos State. Was it intentional? Why did Jayikravan create the Yoruba letters that has now been improved, that we now use? Was it for the advancement of the Yoruba race? Was it? Not necessarily. It was supposed to be a tool for him to, I mean, once you can write the language, it's time to, it thought it would be perfect so that he would be able to translate the English Bible to Yoruba. So that was the motivation. It wasn't so much, oh, there will be somebody in 200 years' time that would benefit from this, or there would be somebody who will be teaching it on YouTube. You know, it didn't know all that at the time. But there's good in evil, there's evil in good. You know, it's what has now been built upon and we now use. I'm going to first of all pronounce them letter by letter before I go into comparisons, and then we can perhaps touch on pronouncing them properly. A, B, D, E, F, G, B. I, G, K, L, M, N, O, P, R, C, Sh, T, U, W, Y. Let's take it again. A, B, D, E, F, G, B, B. I, G, K, L, M, N, O, P, B, 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 R, C, Sh, T, U, W, Y. A, B, D, E, F, G, B. I, G, K, L, M, N, O, P, R, C, Sh, T, U, W, Y. If you compare this to the Latin alphabet, you may notice some differences immediately. You know, you will see that we don't have any letter that remotely looks like a C. You know, we don't have a C, is what I'm trying to say. We don't have a Q. Anything that looks like a Q, we don't have here. We don't have a letter that looks like a Q. We don't have anything that looks like a V. We don't have anything that looks like an X. We don't have anything that looks like a Z. Which brings me to the sensitivity of this, especially with Yoruba people that, due to one or two other reasons, don't live in Nigeria, whose ancestors have not lived in Nigeria for centuries, not out of their own will. In those cases, you know, it might be sensitive because in those places they write, you know, Oksun, what looks like OXUN as Oshun, how we would write that now. So I understand the sensitivity of it, definitely. But this is the system that we use. This is what we consider standard Yoruba, you know, as at now. There have been some changes over the years, you know. Before this was introduced, to make this sound, she, we would combine this and this. We write them together. That is why, if you look at old text, they write Oshogbo. Instead of using the she, they use this and this. C and E. They write them together. So there have been modifications. This is what it stands. This is what it is as at now. You may also wonder, these alphabets are the ones that have children. So you may notice that when you pronounce them, you open your mouth a bit wider. You know, this is A, this is E. You open your mouth wider when you say E than when you say A. This is A, this is A. This is A, this is B. This is B. So you notice that the pronunciations are not even similar. A, B, B, C. We don't have it. So, you know, there are differences. A, O, C, she. You know, there are B. There's nothing like that in the Latin alphabet. Next, let's split them. Just like in the English language, in the Yoruba language, we also have vowels and consonants. Faweli, faweli, faweli. And you may hear faweli, faweli. And you may hear faweli, faweli. You know, when people are referring to vowel, if they pronounce it like any of these three is right. If they write it like any of these three is right. I wouldn't worry about it. It's a borrowed word. Vowel. Faweli. 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 And then for consonants, you may hear consonanti or consonanti. You may hear consonanti, which I prefer, but you may also hear consonanti. These 25 alphabets are what we would use in writing the Yoruba language now. The ones in blue are the vowels. The ones in black are the consonants. So let's do consonants first. Let's do consonanti first. Let's see if we can do some pronunciation exercises in the bit to remember. I did something that is a little bit unconventional here, using tone marks as tips for pronunciation. If you remember do, re, mi, see, do, re, mi. If you haven't seen my video on tone marks, don't worry about this. This is just a guide for helping you remember how to pronounce these letters properly. Mi is the way that you would pronounce them anyway. To remember their again, this is the standard thing. This is just me helping you, attempting to help you with remembering their pronunciation, using tone marks as a reminder for how they should sound. So don't worry so much about, oh my goodness, do we put tone marks on consonants? What's going on here? We don't put tone marks on consonants, except with the exception of ni. And in that case, it would be When it's then it assumes both the consonants gender, if you will, and the vowel identity, the consonant identity orientation, and the vowel orientation. So me are that is how the ones that are in black will sound, and the one that is in purple will sound like do, would align with that tone. So B, see, notice how your tone gets high when you say B, D, Fi, Gi, but here it's B. So do. This one sounds like me, B, see, me, but this one sounds like do. This is for those who have seen my video on tone marks and understand it. But B, D, Fi, Gi, B, I, Ji, Ki, Li, Mi, Ni, Bi, Ri, Si, Shi, Ti, Wi, Yi. So they sound like me. They're not do, and they're not re. They're not B, D, Fi, Gi. At least when you're pronouncing the consonants. All of these, their pronunciation, it's really the vowel that determines the tone, because it is on the vowel that you put the tone marks. So it's really the vowel that determines how these go as far as their pronunciation is concerned. But if someone told you to come pronounce the Yoruba alphabet, and you want to, okay, you are at a test, pronounce the 25 Yoruba alphabets. This is so that you can remember. When it comes to word formation and sentence formation, these pronunciations may not really matter. It would be the vowels that would determine the direction that the tone of each syllable of a Yoruba word will go. It is the vowels that would determine the tone that each syllable will sound like when it's like a word. So B, D, Fi, Gi, B, I, Ji, Ki, Li, Mi, Ni, Bi, Ri, Si, Shi, Ti, Wi, Yi. We have 18 of them. Méjìdínlógún, 2 less than 20. Méjìdínlógún. B, D, Fi, Gi, B. So it aligns with the do tone. This is so that you can remember. Again, don't say, oh, if I say this, does it mean that the do tone always has to go? No. This is just so when you see the letters arbitrarily like this, maybe without context, not in a word, how to pronounce them. When you see them as individual letters, or perhaps you've been told to recite the alphabet, or if someone says, what letter is that? And you want to mention the name of the letter, how to say that properly. This is not a rule, this is just a pronunciation tip. B, D, Fi, Gi, B. I, Ji, Ki, Li, Mi, Ni, Bi, Ri, Si, Shi, Ti, Wi, Yi. Another thing that might help you remember. It doesn't really matter so much here. It's just so that you can remember. It's just so that you can remember how it sounds. It's just a pronunciation tip. Just another tip. The E. This is, we call it E. It's not quite E, but I'm putting it here. Perhaps to help you remember that they always sound like they have E. E at the end. That's how they sound like. So B, D, F, G, B. B. See, even that one sounds like it has a kind of E, 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 E. That's why I put this here to help you remember. B, D, F, G, B. E, G, K, L, M, N, B, B. Notice that this is not P. So it's not pull. It's not pa. See? Pa. If you've seen my video on the homonym pa, it's not, I didn't say pa. I didn't say pa. I put a little what you call K in the English language here to help you remember that it's not P, it's B. B, that's the sound. B, that's the letter. B, 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 B. I had a student, I had a person who took my one-on-one who had a bit of trouble with this at some point. B. You sort of create a form of pressure in your mouth. B, as if you create a pressure, like you build up some kind of pressure in your mouth and then you release it with a quickness, with a sharpness. B, B, B. As if you take in some hair and then it comes with practice if you've never had to say that sound before. B, 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 ba. So examples of words, when they have, this is what it would look like in writing. Again, this is just a pronunciation tip, but ba, which is to turn off or kill or whatever, I've discussed it, or bo, 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 bo is to mix, bashing bogi, to mix, to stir in such a way that that thing is well mixed, I suppose. Bo, bon is to back, maybe be on somebody's back, or that we put our children on our backs, or let me see, what other word? Be is to call. Be me, call me. B is the letter, so it's not P, it's B. Then ri, si, she, ti, we, yi. B, D, F, G, B. E, G, K, L. Let me come back here. E, G, K, L. Let me take it again. B, I didn't make any error. I just want you to get it. B, D, F, G, B. B, B, B. E, G, K, L, M, N, B, 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 B. Examples of words: be, ba, bon, bo. Be, be, be. Then ri, si, she, ti, we, yi. So coming back here, let's try to, these are the 25 letters. Maru di logbon. Let's try to identify the consonants. See? B, D, F, G, B. E, G, K, L, M, N, B, B, R, C, Sh, T, W, Y. See? B, D, F, G, B. E, G, K, L, M, N, B, R, C, Sh, T, W, Y. Let's talk about the tone marks and the exception for this. We will talk about the vowels soon, but let me say that the tone marks always go on vowels with the exception of ni and mi when they make up a syllable. Tone marks always go on vowels with the exception of ni and mi when they make up a syllable, when they are the only letter in a syllable. Why? A syllable typically, like I explained in the previous video on tone marks, typically has a vowel, at least one vowel sound in it before you can consider it a syllable. A unit of pronunciation having one vowel sound with or without surrounding consonants forming the whole or part of a word. So even in the Yoruba language, coincidentally, a syllable typically has at least one vowel. Now, in the event that is just ni or mi in that syllable, they stop being ni. You don't pronounce them as if they are individual letters. You pronounce this like and this is more commonly seen than because is so you see it. If I put tone marks on it's a reason. So and if you were just mentioning them as letters, you would say ni, mi, mi. No, but now they are making up a syllable. Now you have to consider, you have to give them two genders. They are now two spirits, if you will. So, they stop being ni, they become that's the sound. You're making the consonants a vowel now. Both a consonant and a vowel at the same time. Tone marks always go on vowels, with the exception of ni and mi when they make up a syllable. In that case, there will be and That's how they will be pronounced. So will tone marks go on this? No. Will tone marks go on this? No. Will tone marks go on this? No. So let's see. Let me show you what I mean. Mung bo o. Is am. This letter, this word, even this word, is a syllable, it's a letter, it's a word. It's a syllable and a letter and a word. Is, it's am, it's are. Depending on the context, it can be is, it can be am, it can be are. You see this? If you remember, I said to pronounce this, you would say it, with the me. So let's start from here. E, G, Ki, Li, Mi, Ni. Ni is how you say it if you're just mentioning the letter. But when it makes up a syllable, and what is the characteristic of a syllable? Typically contains at least one vowel sound. If it's just this, you have to make it both consonant and vowel. You have to now recognize that it has taken on a two-spirit personality. So is how you pronounce it. Mung bo. Mung mm, 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 mm. You won't say moni bo, just because I said now it's both a consonant and a vowel. So mung bo, we cannot put tone marks on it. In a different dialect, let's do Saleko for example. Mimbo. 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 Mbo. In that case, me this as well. In the some people say standard Yoruba. For the most popularized Yoruba, there's no non-standard Yoruba. Sons of Oduduwa that went to different places, the dialects changed. So, but Jayikravan popularized the Oyo dialect. So the Yoruba that I typically speak, that we teach, that is taught in schools and is popularized, that has been popularized ever since, is a kind of Oyo dialect. So it's Oyo. You say, okay, what dialects do they call the lingua franca of all other dialects? The commonplace for people who speak other dialects is the Oyo dialect, the one that Jayikravan helped popularize and was taught in schools and everything. So this is the exception. Mumbo, mumbo, mumbo. I am coming. O is a exclamation word. I've explained this. I'll link it so that you can see it. Is am, is are. If you leave it out, some people would say that you don't have to put tone marks on it. Some people would even insist that you shouldn't, but I don't really like how it looks when it doesn't have tone marks on it. Because now that this is a word, and I'm now saying this as a syllable and a word, it should have some form of tonal. This is, without tone marks, this is re, re. This has the re tone. So, do, re, mombo is what it sounds like. Mombo doesn't, if I'm just reading it based off of the tones, like if I look at this, I would know that it's mombo if I use my intuition. But if I'm just going off of tones, it's not quite it. Mombo is what it's. So mombo, do mi do re, mombo, So I because it's a separate word. It's now a syllable. It's a vowelized consonant. I keep coming up with this stuff. Vowelized consonant is a two-spirit letter. It has now assumed a two-spirit position. Now, not ni anymore, but is how you would pronounce it. Then it's good to indicate, do mombo. Let's do vowels next. So for vowels, we have nasal and non-nasal vowels. Nasal and non-nasal vowels. The non-nasal vowels are àìránmúpè. They're non-nasal. Àìránmúpè. Àìránmúpè. What does àìránmúpè mean? I is a negation. Àìgbọ́fá. Àìríran. See, àìríran is the act of not seeing. Àìgbọ́fá is the act of not really understanding any of the odus. You may divine, but you don't. Something comes out, you don't know what that means. Àìgbọ́fá. Or maybe your intuition, your intuitive connection to Ifa, it's not there. That's I. So whenever any word starts with I, it's like that thing is a negative statement. That thing is not the case. Àìríran, blindness, the act of not seeing. Ríran is to see. Àìríran is the act of not seeing. Ṣeré is to play. Àìṣeré is the act of the act or state, the state of not playing, because it won't be the act of not playing if there's no act involved. Àìránmú pè, àì. Ránmú, rán, imú, rán, rán. What I'm doing is I'm squeezing my nose. Ránmú, rán, imú are the two words combined here. Ránmú, squeezing my nose to rán, imú, squeezing the nose. Rán, imú, squeezing, rumbling. I don't know if rambling, is it rambling or what making that nasal sound with the nose. Ramu, ramukpe. Ramukpe is making that nasal sound with the nose, but ramu, squeezing the nose, pe is to pronounce. Àìránmúpè, the act of not squeezing the nose, squeezing the nose to pronounce pe, non-nasal. But àránmúpè is nasal, means you squeeze a. Àránmúpè, you squeeze your nose to pronounce it. You squeeze your nose to pronounce it. Àránmúpè, àìránmúpè, 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 àránmúpè, àránmúpè. You squeeze your nose to pronounce. Nasal, non-nasal. So this one involves the mouth. This one involves the mouth and the nose. Let's introduce them. These are the àìránmúpè vowels. Méje la ní. We have 7 of them. 7. We don't squeeze our nose. So we don't squeeze our nose to pronounce them. They are not nasal. We don't squeeze our nose to pronounce them. Àìránmúpè, àìránmúpè. We don't squeeze our nose to pronounce them. So a, e, I, o, u. Those are the 7 of them. A, e, I, o, u. One more time. A, e, I, o, u. Before I get to the pronunciation tip, let's come back here and let's identify them. They are the ones in blue. They are the ones in blue. A, e, I, o, u. A, e, I, o, u. A, B, D, A, F, G, B. I, G, K, L, M, N, O, P, R, C, Sh, T, U, W, Y. A, e, I, o, u. Méje lani, méje, 7, méje. The ones in black you pronounce with sort of a higher tone. The one in blue, re, is the one that you should do. A, see, me, a. So it goes high. A, e, I, re, I, iku, iná, I, o, u. The ones in black look like they have the me tone. The ones in blue, the one in blue, re. So a, e, I, o, u. A, e, I, o, U, A, E, I, O, U, Mi. See? Sounds like that's how it sounds. This is just a pronunciation practice, you know. Beyond that, it's nothing. Just something to help you remember how to pronounce each letter properly. Examples of words with àìrọ́múpè vowels. Words that don't have any àránmúpè vowels. You don't have to, they are not nasal. You don't have any nasal sounds in them. Ifá, ajé, ọ̀bẹ, orí, odò, ẹ̀ṣọ́, eré. With my pronunciation of these words, I'm not using my nose. Ifá, ajé, ọ̀bẹ, orí, odò, ẹ̀ṣọ́, eré. But these are the àránmúpè vowels. Márùn lani, márùn, 5. There are 5 of them. Márùn. I will make a video, a follow-up video on numerals soon. E, I, O, U, E, I, O, U, Mi, Re, Mi, E, I, O, U, E, I, O, U, E, I, O, U, E, I, O, U. When you look at the alphabet, you won't see them, written separately. But it's with combining ni with them that they become àránmúpè vowels. It's with combining ni. Ni is just special when it comes to certain things, In that case, it's is the sound. So when you combine a and you get So it's combinations that form each one of these 5. I, U, E, I, U, Mi, Re, Mi, E, I, U. So examples of words that are nasal, that contain nasal sounds, and I've chosen to use each of these 5 in examples so that you can see. Look at the endings of them. Idán is magic. Idán. See, it's nasal. These are the nasal vowels. It's nasal. It involves the nose. Idán, magic. Ìyẹn, that. Ìyẹn, that. Ìyìn, praise. Ìyìn, praise. And then ọgbọ́n, wisdom. Ọgbọ́n, wisdom. And then ọ̀fun, throat. Idán, nasal sound. Idán, magic. Ìyẹn is that. Ìyìn is praise. Ọgbọ́n is wisdom, and ọ̀fun is throat. So these are those vowels. Both the àránmúpè and àìrọ́múpè vowels. The àìrọ́múpè first, the non-nasal, 7 of them. A, E, I, O, U. The àránmúpè next, 5 of them nasal. I, un, I, mi, re, mi, I, a, e, I, o, u. Non-nasal 7, nasal 5. So let's do another pronunciation exercise, and then we can call it a day. You know, the Yoruba alphabets. The Yoruba alphabets. The Yoruba letters. What are they? There are 25 of them. A, B, D, E, F, G, B. I, G, K, L, M, N, O, B, R, C, Sh, T, U, W, Y, A, B, D, E, F, G, B. So an example of a word with this letter, ba, ban, is shake, ba is accept, be is carry, b. That's the sound, b. A, B, D, E, F, G, B. I, G, K, L, M, N, O, B, R, C, Sh, T, U, W, Y. A, B, D, E, F, G, B. I, G, K, L, M, N, O, B, R, C, Sh, T, U, W, Y. Those are the 25 Yoruba letters. Those are the 25 of them. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and I'll be more than happy to respond to your questions. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next ones. Enjoy the rest of your day, and bye for now.
Àṣẹ o. Ajé òkú oníṣọ́ gbòógì.